Hello, and welcome to Law Deals, where we explore the business side of running, growing, and transitioning law firms. I'm your host, Ed Alexander. Today, I'm excited to welcome my friend and colleague for over 20 years, Peggy Hoyt. Peggy is founding partner of Hoyt & Bryan, a Central Florida estate planning and elder law firm that holds the unique distinction of being the only Florida law firm with two attorneys who are dual board certified in wills, trusts, and estates, and also in elder law. Before becoming an attorney, Peggy had successful careers in financial consulting and as a chief financial officer. She is an accomplished author, with her latest book, 101 Ways to F Up Your Estate, becoming an Amazon bestseller. Congratulations. She also is the founder of Animal Care Trust USA, a national not-for-profit dedicated to keeping pets in loving homes through innovative pet trust solutions. When she's not helping clients protect their legacies, you can find her hosting her weekly podcast, All My Children Wear Fur Coats. So I encourage everybody to download that to their favorite podcast player. Over the years, Peggy and I have collaborated on numerous business owner arrangements, and today we're going to explore the crucial intersection of estate planning and business succession planning. Welcome to the podcast, Peggy.
Thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so one of the unique things is Peggy works remotely. So she actually built a house and basically a horse farm in Virginia, right? And so Peggy experienced a little bit of technical difficulties with the power going out there. So we're picking this up again. Okay, so before we dive in, tell us a little bit about the three key lessons you've learned along the way.
Oh, there are so many, but let's see if I can come up with three keys. Number one, I think, is that clients come first. We always make clients a priority, and we also want to work with people we like. So it's easy to put clients first when they are people you like. And I guess that was one of the motivations for starting my own practice, is that it would allow me that opportunity to just work with those people I like. So clients do come first. That's number one.
Oh yeah, that's I mean, the whole idea of working with people you like makes life so much easier, right? And there's an important intake process that goes along with that. I'm sure you've developed that over years of practicing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell my clients that they should only work with people they like. So it has to be a two-way street as well.
Right. An exchange of value between professionals. All right. So what's the second?
So the second thing is it's nice to be a big fish in a small pond. So that was another reason for creating my own law firm ultimately. I had worked in a number of large corporations over the years and a large law firm as well. It's really nice to be a big fish in a small pond where you get to set the course, where you get to set the protocols, where the business actually reflects your own personality and your competencies. And
that certainly, it does reflect your personality and your love of animals. I think that, that's part of the key, right? Because if you're looking at it, you're bringing in people who also love animals too, right? And you're probably sending away or maybe not attracting people who don't have that same passion that you do. So that's fantastic.
Yep. So that worked out really nicely for me. And then the third thing is, and this is something that we've practiced all along from the very beginning, which is educate to motivate. And we really feel like it's important to teach people the questions that they didn't even know that they needed to ask in the first place. And because we do that, and we do that very willingly and without reservation, it attracts people to us because we're giving in order to develop a relationship on the front end before asking people to make a commitment to our law firm. So
they feel like they know, like, and trust you because there's been a low barrier to entry to getting to know you, right? And you don't hold anything back. That's really a beauty of what you guys do, is that you basically, someone could come in and learn exactly what they needed to do And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but they could literally go and do it themselves. And by doing that, you've created that goodwill that now translates into saying, how can we work together? So fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've never used fear to motivate people. We've always used education. And I think we all know that the more we know, the less we know ultimately. Because the more you learn, the bigger the universe is for things that you still need to learn.
So that touches on one of my favorite things of all time, which is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Are you familiar with that?
No,
It's a curve. All right. So we're gonna put a picture of the Dunning-Kruger effect here, and what you'll see is that there's two axes. One is actual knowledge, right? And essentially what you have is somebody who has a perception early on that they know everything by getting a little bit of information, right? And they call that the peak of Mount Stupid, because you think you know everything, but you know nothing. And that's the most dangerous period of time because, oh, well, I can go, do all this and yada, yada, yada. And then as you learn more, you fall into the valley of despair where you realize I know nothing about this. And that's a pretty significant peak in the front. And then it slowly grows out of the valley of despair as you learn more and more and more. So definitely the perfect curve for what goes on for most people.
Absolutely. And it is true. It is very, very true. People come into a relationship sometimes thinking that they know a lot more than they do. And then the more they learn, they realize the less they actually know. And, it really is our job as attorneys to teach people the worst possible thing that can happen and then help them avoid it.
Right. And it's not a fear-based thing. It's basically, hey, here are the problems that can come up and, just so that you're aware of it. That's great.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's the, what does they say? The fence at the top of the hill versus the ambulance at the bottom, right? That's what we want to be.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So you were a financial advisor before you were an attorney. So tell us about the journey, how you decided to become an attorney, and then where you went from there.
So I did have the opportunity when I was considerably younger to be a financial consultant for Merrill Lynch. And I did that for a number of years. And I really loved that business. I loved the relationship that I had with my clients. That's really where I started with the educate to motivate philosophy. I got a little misguided as a young person that there might have been other opportunities that I should be taking advantage of. So I left the financial advising world and joined another large corporation as an account executive and determined that ultimately wasn't going to be the right path for me. So that really opened up the door to say, what else am I going to do with my life? I decided I would go to law school because when I was working as a financial advisor, of course, I worked with a lot of lawyers who were representing their clients in an estate planning capacity. And I thought, I'm going to jump over to the other side of the desk and do estate planning. So I went to law school knowing that I wanted to be an estate planning attorney.
Fantastic. So then you come out of law school, you went to Stetson, right? Stetson?
I went to Stetson Law, yeah, over in St. Petersburg.
I mean, what an amazing place to go to law school. I don't know how you'd study there. Anyway, aside from that, so you go to Stetson, you come out, and then you went to work at a large law firm.
I did. Yes. So I had the opportunity to work in a large law firm and also had the unique opportunity that year or the couple years that I was there to be, I was the only associate they hired that year. So I got to work in a lot of different departments and see a lot of different aspects of practicing law, which really only reconfirmed my commitment to being an estate planning attorney. So when I left the large law firm and joined a smaller firm, I was the estate planning department. I didn't have any mentors because I was the estate planning department. So as a result, I had to seek out some mentors. And I was lucky enough at that time to find the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys. And it was through that organization that I really got all of my foundational knowledge for building a successful estate planning law firm. But I also met my partner, Randy Bryan, at a conference out in Colorado. He had recently joined the organization as well. We both realized we were practicing in Winter Park, Florida. And we became friends, and ultimately we became partners.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. So it's interesting. I mean, the theme really travels through, right? So the financial advisory theme really is a component of doing the estate planning. So you got all these great areas, right? You get the generalized experience at the law firm, and then you get the specific experience in the financial advisory, and then you move into the estate planning. So well-rounded, fantastic background. All right. So let's kind of talk, let's switch a little bit here. We're going to talk about business succession planning, law firm succession planning, and estate planning. So tell me, how do they work together?
So they all absolutely do work together. And I'll start maybe on the law firm succession planning, because a lot of people say to me, because they're concerned about their future, they're developing a relationship with an attorney, but also with a law firm. So a lot of the questions that they have for me is, Peggy, what happens to me if something happens to you? Because obviously that's the question that I'm asking them too, is what happens if something happens to you? So they turn the question around on me, and they always ask, what happens to me if something happens to you? And so I'm always proud to say that we've structured our law firm in a way that my partner Randy is 10 years younger than I am. Our partner Sarah is about 8 years younger than Randy, and our partner Michelle is about 8 years younger than Sarah. So we actually have stair steps, if you will, for each of the decades, so that we can provide our clients with just the security that they want to have to know that there's longevity in the law firm.
So this is a really important point. And I think what you've done a fantastic job. But the point I want everybody to take away from this is, oftentimes what I will see is I'll see kind of this structure where we have the partners who are in their 60s, and we've got this gap between the 50s and the mid 30s. And when it comes time to succession plan, what we're looking at is, in the mid 30s, these partners are still building their families. They're still getting the house. They're still doing all the things that you do to really adult in the middle part of life, the way that you do things. And therefore, they're not as good a succession partner as when you have this stair-step function. And so if you find yourself in this situation, the best thing to do is to bring in a lateral as a partner. Now, you got to be careful about how you do that, so you can undo it if it doesn't work. But it's bring in the partner who's 10 years younger, and then another partner who's 10 years younger than that partner, right? So that you got this stair-step arrangement. So great for you. That was a great job to do that.
Well, it just worked out that way perfectly, actually. So we were happy for that, but we did always have our eye on the future. So what does happen as each one of us perhaps ages out of the practice over time?
Yeah.
Although, don't all lawyers die at their desk, Ed?
Don't get me started. It's people think they're going to die at their desk, right? But at the end of the day, it's their mental capacity goes, and that is the bigger issue, right? It was interesting in the book, which I absolutely love and I talk about often, Die with Zero, because it's a fantastic book. It really points you in the right direction of what's important. And don't get scared off by the title, because that isn't exactly what the author suggests.
Right.
But the point is, you will not be able to take care of your finances, and by extension, your law firm or your clients at some point, and you will not be the one who knows that you can't do that anymore, right? It's going to be people around you who tell you that. And that's the biggest risk you have, is getting disbarred at an older age because you've done something wrong and you don't have somebody telling you you can't do this anymore. That's a big, huge issue. So let's look at pitfalls that you've seen. You've done this a long time. You've got, I'm sure, some interesting disaster stories about the failure to do business succession planning with estate planning, and vice versa.
Oh, absolutely. And it mostly stems from the fact that we do all think we're going to live forever. I mean, we're pretty optimistic as a people. We say, when I win the lottery and if I die. We all think that we're going to become fabulously rich from winning the lottery, and none of us are ever going to die. I just had a client pass away, actually, who was in his late 80s, and he had just sold his practice.
Wow.
So took a long time to admit that it was time to get out. I hope I don't wait that long. because I really don't want to die at my desk. So that's one of the pitfalls, of course, but so not having a succession plan is the number one pitfall. And a lot of people don't have a succession plan. They have never spent the same amount of time that they spend on their vacation. They've never spent thinking about how they were going to transition their business at the end of their lifetime. And our favorite thing, I think, to say is, well, so-and-so knows what I want. Well, knowing and having the legal tools to actually carry that out are two different things. So you can't just have a wish. A wish is not a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have some written documents. You have to have someone identified who can step into your shoes. And then you got to give them the legal tools to make that happen.
I was on a conference call with a client, his financial advisor, and me, and we were talking about this specific issue. And the client said, "Well, we have a handshake agreement. The two partners have a handshake agreement. He's going to buy me out when I die." And the financial advisor was so appalled. He said, when you die, I'm going to use this story in one of my books, because this is going to turn out so poorly for you and your family that everybody has to listen to this. And it just shocked the client into actually taking action. So that was
good. Again, not fear-based, but education-based, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And we tend to trust the people around us to think that they're always going to do the right thing. But people don't always do the right thing. And even if they want to do the right thing, sometimes they don't have the tools to do that right thing. So yes, absolutely critical that you have a written plan. And even when you have a written plan, and I have a perfectly good story for that one. Business partners for over 40 years, they had a written plan. They even talked about how they were going to value the business interest at the time of death. What they didn't keep updated over time was the prevailing interest rate that was going to be paid on the note. So they didn't have a way to address that. And of course, one of the partners died at a time when interest rates were extremely high, and they could have agreed on something else. But as a result, it put the surviving partner in a difficult position, not being able to afford the payments to purchase the business as intended. And this was not a plan that was funded with life insurance. That would have been nice, because then that would have given her the liquidity that she needed to buy out her business partner.
Well, so a couple of things the valuation of the business on death is such a critical issue, right? Because there is a couple of things that can happen there. The first is we come up with a formula. Nobody revisits that formula. So it's either wildly out of high or wildly low, one of the two. And the first partner to die either loses if it's wildly low, or creates a burden on the business. The second piece is we got to make sure the business can support that cash flow, right? So if we are using a formula, or we're using a certificate of value that we're doing, right, we need to do the back of the napkin approach. And can we make this work or not? Because ultimately it would go away. And really the only true way to know whether it can is to get a true business valuation done. And nobody wants to do that because it takes a long time and costs a lot of money, but it is the best alternative.
Absolutely. And one other story I can think about is, and this is one that was actually funded with life insurance. So it was an interesting situation, because the partner who died had always told his wife, "Oh, you never have to worry, because there's $1 million worth of life insurance that's going to buy out my interest in the business." Well, lo and behold, he happened to die at a time when the business was in a financial crisis. And the two other partners had been injecting cash into this business for quite some time, their personal cash, and not the partner who died. So when push came to shove, the deceased partner actually owed the business money, as opposed to reaping the benefits of this $1 million life insurance policy. So it just goes to your point that we can't just put a plan together, put it in the drawer, and forget about it. You have to revisit it on a regular basis to make sure that it still works. Your back of the napkin approach, it still works based on current market conditions.
Yeah. And so the good news is that you put the plan in place just in case everybody's not in the same bucket as, go forward. But at some point, right, you have to go back and analyze, is this working? And, I've been talking with a particular business where their shareholders agreement is 13 years old. 13 years is way too long to go with your current shareholders agreement, right? You've got to keep revisiting it over and over again. And I know that you do that on a estate planning side too. So you have a client care program that ultimately clients work with you year in and year out. So talk a little bit about that program and how you've developed it in your firm.
So we call the program the Estate Security Plan, or ESP for short. And we ran a contest once upon a time, and we let our clients name the program, actually. And the tagline that goes with it is, you can't predict the future, but you can plan for it, which I think is perfect to go with the idea of ESP. So the clients that are participating in our ESP program, it is an ongoing updating, education, and maintenance program. I usually describe it as a concierge type level program. It certainly is optional. People are not required to join the plan. But for those clients that want a higher level of personalized attention, they want to be able to call the law firm without receiving a bill. They want to amend their planning whenever they want to amend it. And then I always affectionately say, and we make them review their estate planning every 2 to 3 years, and we update their asset information on an annual basis so that we always know what they own and how they own it. So there's a lot of moving parts to that program. We have about 300 families in the program. So it's not for everybody, but for the clients that are in that program, they certainly are the ones that we know the best. We know them, we know their families, and they have a higher level of security that we're going to be there for them and for their families if something happens.
So fantastic. I mean, we're really talking there about recurring revenue for your firm. So you bill that in the beginning of the year, I imagine. And so essentially that's guaranteed income or revenue in January. So fantastic. That's wonderful. And it certainly will make your firm worth more in the long run, not even just from the standpoint of the revenue, but also because those clients are so closely related or attached to the firm. I'm sure they're coming to you for all sorts of things that are beyond estate planning. Somebody gets in a car accident, somebody, whatever it is, business issue, any of those things. You've developed that relationship that keeps really the work continuing to come into your firm. So congratulations for that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been a great program. We really love it. And we really enjoy the relationships that we have with those clients because they are a lot like family. And we have, a 20 plus year relationship with a lot of those folks.
Very nice. Very nice. And I'm sure that when somebody passes away and they're in the program, the kids already know you. So they're coming to the firm. They're expecting the same kind of a relationship where it's an ongoing relationship. So it really continues far beyond the initial client and to ongoing pieces, right? And that's what buyers are looking for. They're looking for recurring revenue in a firm, not having to say, well, are all the clients going to go away when, we buy or Peggy leaves or whatever. Right. Yeah. So, good.
It also plays into our marketing philosophy because we have this close relationship with so many of these clients. They really are what we could call our raving fans, I guess. And they tell their friends who tell their friends who tell their friends. So we end up getting a lot of additional business from our existing client base.
Nice. So your firm sends out a lot of email communications about upcoming events that you have. So you have events for advisors, you have events for prospective clients, you have events for clients where you are educating them on various different issues. Tell me about that program and how you got into it.
Well, that just goes back to the original philosophy of educate to motivate. So we have consistently provided ongoing workshops, mostly complimentary for folks that want to learn about various aspects of the law, who just want to try to get to know us on a non-commitment basis. I mean, we have done that. Our business has been around for more than 25 years now. And in and month out, we have consistently provided workshops. And the way we communicate those workshops is via email, social media, word of mouth and through our trusted advisor network.
Excellent. So your trusted advisors, you also have specific educational content for them too. So these are complementary related fields. So accountants, financial advisors, other attorneys, non-estate planning attorneys, right?
We even educate estate planning attorneys, and we're happy to help them as well.
Good. Give to everybody. That's a good philosophy.
Well, when the tide rises, we all succeed. So
there you go. That's a great philosophy. Really, really great. So you're bringing them in. You're kind of talking to them about spotting issues. What other kinds of topics do you want them to know about?
Well, so we teach a workshop called The Truth About Estate Planning, not because we think people are lying, but just because there's a lot of information that is out there available on the internet, which you don't know the wheat from the chaff. So we teach the truth about estate planning. We teach the truth about Medicaid planning, which is a program geared towards seniors and how they're going to pay for long-term care in the later parts of their life. We teach a program called What to Do When Someone Dies. And that's a very popular program because people really don't know what to do or how to do it when someone passes away. So we've taught that for years as well. We teach a workshop called Special People, Special Planning for families with persons with special needs. We teach an All My Children Wear Fur Coats workshop. So we talk to those pet parents that want to include their pets as part of their estate plan. And as you mentioned, that's my personal passion. So I am typically the one that teaches that workshop. We teach a veterans planning workshop because there are benefits through the VA that people may not be aware of that they could be entitled to for long-term care concerns. And then for advisors, we teach advanced planning techniques, how to talk to clients, what are the basic things that they need to know in order to educate their clients.
Well, that's a lot of programs, and I'm sure listeners might be a little overwhelmed by that. So you must have started smaller than that. So let's kind of go through the process of how you started this, what it looked like when it started, and now how you've developed it into the fantastic business generating process that it is.
So when it first started, we were teaching in person, just a few people at a time in our conference room. And then we built a learning center at our office. So we had a classroom at our office so that people could come there and enjoy a classroom type environment, very low key. And for many, many years, Randy Bryan and I co-taught all of these programs together. So it took a lot of our time, a lot of commitment to these clients, but little by little, that's how we built our marketing base. That's how we built our client base. And then we've just continuously marketed to these same folks over the years, including their advisors, to encourage people to come to the information. COVID changed everything for everybody. And now we teach most of our workshops virtually. The good news on that is that attendance is up multifold because a lot more people are willing to show up for a virtual program than maybe an in-person program, because they don't have to drive, they don't have to set aside, the time for that. But we do still teach 2 workshops every month in person at a facility located in Altamont Springs at one senior place. So we still like to get in front of people on a one-on-one basis when we can. The virtual has worked out terrific for us, though. And it just continuously keeps that top of mind awareness. We've also done over 100 short videos that are available on our website for frequently asked questions.
Yeah. So, this is the value of having a good list, right? And, as people get information from you, collecting their email addresses and continuing to send them good information, right? Not sales information, not about how great we are or anything like that. It's Here's things you need to know. So your firm is the only one in Florida with 2 attorneys that are dual certified in both wills, trusts, and estates and in elder law. So how has this expertise helped your ability to grow your business and help law firm owners, business owners, and others with their, estate planning?
Well, I think that it establishes us as leaders in our field, of course. Board certification, if you would ask me 20 years ago, are you ever going to get board certified? I might have said no. But then it became a distinguishing factor, a way to distinguish yourself from all of the other attorneys out there who say, I do estate planning. Because most attorneys think they can do a basic estate plan. I can do your will, I can do some powers of attorney. But the reality is that estate planning is an extremely complex area of the law because it touches every other area of the law. Contract law, family law, real property law, probate law, trust law, elder law, on and on, tax law. So you have to be almost expert in every single one of those fields in order not to fall into the trap of giving somebody inadvertent bad advice. We discovered pretty early on that being able to distinguish ourselves as specialists, as recognized by the Florida bar in those fields, was going to be to our advantage. So after we got board certified in wills, trusts, and estates, we both decided to get board certified in elder law. Because you have to spend 50% of your practice in those specialties, we could only get 2. So we couldn't go get a third board certification in anything else. Frankly, those are very, very difficult tests with probably a 70% or below passing rate. It's been definitely a boost to our image, I think, on a statewide basis. It demonstrates our commitment to our area of practice. And then our other partners are also board certified. So we can also say, and I think we can say this, that we are the only firm that's 100% board certified. So all of our attorneys hold a board certification.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, good. So, all right. So you've utilized books and guides to market your practice in a big way. And the latest one I said in the introduction was 101 Ways to F Up Your Estate, which I love the title. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a bestseller. And so talk about kind of what's the message there and how you would apply it to business owners.
So the message is there are a lot of ways to screw things up that you may not be aware of. And the way I laid out the book is there's a section for everybody. There's a section for parents. There's a section for seniors. There's a section for business owners. There's a section for pet lovers. I've segmented it into specific sections for specific interests as well. But it's a very quick read. It's not difficult to digest, but it just really puts in your face all the different ways that it's possible to make a mistake in thinking about your estate planning. One of my friends who read it shortly after it came out, he goes, Peggy, there's more than 101 ways that in that book. There's over 120. And I said, I understand that, but I wasn't going to call it 120 ways. And once I started writing, I just kept going because every day I feel like I learn a new way to mess up your estate. And hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll be able to announce the 101 Ways podcast.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic. Yeah. So what it reminds me of, Peggy, is a friend of mine who's a PI lawyer. We went to lunch and he drove. And he was driving like an old lady. And I asked him, why are you driving like an old lady? And he said, well, because I represent people who've been maimed in car accidents. So I think perfect. It's great. So tell us about Animal Care Trust USA.
So Animal Care Trust USA grew out of my passion for helping people plan for their pets. I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to give people a resource, a place where they could go for information. I wanted to give people some solutions. So I have a couple of lower cost solutions for lifetime planning for your pets. And then for those people that wanted to do custom estate plans, I wanted to give them a way to do that as well. And so I would say that most of the people that I interact with want to do custom estate plans for their pets. They're very committed to making sure that their loved pets stay in a loving home in the event the pet parent either becomes disabled or dies. So it's a very deliberate kind of planning. And then the other gap that we saw in the market was that there is no firm that just strictly provides trustee services for pet trusts. So that's a role that we can take on to help pet parents if they're looking for that pet trustee to oversee the administration of a pet trust once the pet parents pass away.
So effectively, it's a combination of a passion project for you because of the nonprofit piece and all of that goes along with it. But it also generates business for the law firm because at the end of the day, if they're looking to do a custom plan, you're an option and you're probably the natural option. But I'm sure, if somebody was in a different state or something like that, you'd, address that issue with them.
That's true. And I'm proud to announce that I'm working with a colleague right now to create yet another organization called the National Pet Trust Alliance. It will be an invitation-only organization to attorneys across the country who are dedicated to doing pet trust planning so that we will have those resources in all 50 states.
Let's just talk briefly before we end about the niche now and how that's worked out, right? Because this is really a highly niched area, right? Or niche, whatever you want to call it, but I call it niche, right? So highly niched area. So how has that impacted the practice? I mean, it's clear that you have a passion for this and that's how you came to it. But now you're able to both address your passion at the same time as you're generating business for the law firm, which I think for so many attorneys would be nirvana. So talk to us about that.
Well, that's just a happy byproduct, I think. I think when you put your passion out there, you tell people what you're passionate about, and then you demonstrate that in your day-to-day life. And if you're lucky enough, like I was, to figure out a way to incorporate it into your business, people do feel that passion. They do know that I'm absolutely committed to helping pet parents. And even if they're not going to do a pet trust, if they're just pet lovers, I think pet lovers like to work with pet lovers. So they like to know that there's somebody that might be as crazy as they are about their dog or their cat or their bird or their horse. And they know they can talk to me ad nauseum about their pets, and I'm never going to get tired of hearing about it. Some people like to talk about their kids or their grandkids, but you ask anybody about their dog and they're going to whip out their phone and start showing you pictures of their dog or their cat or their favorite pet.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and I would recommend this podcast as well. It's Ben Glass, Renegade Lawyer Podcast. And he was interviewing a criminal defense attorney in Houston who also kind of developed this side area for Airbnb owner asset protection. And it just came out of the fact that he owned an Airbnb and was looking to do asset protection. It was totally off the radar for anything he would have done, but he's developed a really nice niche little practice in it. So for anybody out there looking at this and saying, hey, what can I niche into? The first thing we want to look at is, what are your passions? What are you interested in? And the beauty of that niching is really that it's not work for you because this is what you want to do. And so now all of a sudden it's generating a bunch of business. And I think that comes through. Right? You're not there just to generate business. You're not going handing out business cards. You're passionate about what Animal Care Trust USA is doing. So congratulations. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. And I think you can say the same thing about your practice, Ed. I mean, you found a niche serving businesses and entrepreneurs and lawyers who want to sell their practices. So, and it's something that you're passionate about. So it's great.
I do love the business of law and all those transactions. So
since I can't convince you to get a dog, I guess you have to stay in the business world.
That's right. You cannot convince me to get a dog. Good. All right. So Peggy, how can listeners get a hold of you? What's the best way to get in touch?
All right. Easy to find me. I'm at Peggy@HoytBryan.com. You can also call the law firm 407-977-8080.
And Bryan is Bryan. So
that's correct. Or just visit us at our website, HoytBryan.com.
Peggy, thank you for being on the podcast. Great episode. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and best wishes and good luck with the show.
Thanks.